So we've spoken about what kind of innovations, but what about, question to either of you three, what or how do you formalize innovation in your firms, in your establishment? Did you go by portfolio basis? Did you approach it from a portfolio perspective, or did you manage it on a case-by-case perspective and applying financial analysis, your NPV, ROI stuff, or was there some other mechanism?
Well, I have a reaction to that, okay? So I think if I got you right, you said something like, how do you formalize the process about innovation, around innovation, right? And how are you going to understand maybe the business case as to whether one should go forward or not? And I think what we just heard was a whole talk about how to get outside, how to do it different, how to separate, how to hide, how to get outside the context of just what you asked as the formalization. And I think that the quest of people who like to teach, who like to lecture, who like to practice, who like to consult on innovation is all about process and methodology and formalization. But in the end of the day, I'm starting to really seriously question if that's the right direction. It's something that should be categorized and formalized and methodologized and processized in that way. And that maybe it's more about creating the right conditions and creating the right environments to facilitate people who are motivated or people who can identify what those new opportunities are and are motivated enough to act against them, to act, and then secondarily have the right processes and methodologies to be able to find out that they're happening, like deal flow, or finding out these things are happening, take them in, and be able to recognize and understand their value so that you can have the opportunity to act on them. So that's probably not the answer you were looking for. There are a lot of methodologies and formalized methods. I think my point right now, at this point in time, having done this for a long time, pretty much my whole career, starting to really question, looking back, if it really is about, if it's one of those things that should be systematized.
Jack or Howard?
Yeah, I can tell you what I did, and that was I created an environment. I created a vehicle that enabled people to get their ideas surfaced and maybe get them funded and encouraged to continue. I had once a month a multidiscipline group meet in a conference room, from the labs, from engineering, from billing. Anybody could come, and they could bring innovation from anywhere they wanted. And we would talk about the ways to throw them a few dollars to go get them, encourage them and enable them, as you suggested, to go do something out of the process without forcing them into the process of the big company. You just got to give them a chance to grow.
And I actually have formalized that process just a little bit in our company. In fact, because our little system is working so well, my boss, crazy that he is, wants us to completely excite the whole company about innovation. So Christy Walsh, who's sitting over there, is in charge of, in our little $15 billion a year sales company, she's in charge of having a quarterly innovation workshop every quarter of the year. And she gets people together. We have one that we call my age, the seniors. They have an innovation workshop. We have an innovation workshop with middle managers, and we have one that we call Rising Stars, which are the young, up-and-coming, high-potential kind of people in the company. And it's generally a 2, sometimes a 3-day session where they get together and study the whole concept of innovation. We don't actually squeeze innovations out of them, but we try to suggest ways that they might dispose themselves toward our business and look for new value in new places. And the Hult School has facilitated us in learning that process, and I think it's given rise to a lot of really important ideas that have changed how we're investing in our business in the future. We also created a follow-on function in the company to take the ideas that pass the muster of these innovation groups and turn them into small business extravaganzas, or to put them into the business where they fit logically and to develop them from there. So I agree, it's probably not something you can legislate, but in our case, we've learned it's very helpful to create that environment at least these 3 levels in the company to get people infected with the idea of, let's do something different to be better than our competitors.
Both Jack and
comment on that.
The other thing that I've seen that the IXL Center do very well is, you know, relatively publicly smack the people in the head and says your business is going away. You know, in 10 years, you won't have a business here. So you can sit here, write it, or you can do something about it. And that, the ability to look a senior group of managers in the eye and say, you're operating a business that's going to die, is not an easy thing to be done internally. You're letting someone from the outside.
both Jack and Howard used the word investment, which I think, at least in our experience, is a critical part of kind of what you can do corporately, because innovation is going to happen, and you want to encourage it to happen in lots of places, but it is a little bit like herding cats, and you do have to have a big bowl of cream. And that bowl of cream can be venture capital, it can be a growth investment capital, but it is not the budget process. And for companies, I think that one's up here, for companies that are 100% budget driven, it's extremely difficult to have a powerful, sustainable innovation process. So having investment discipline around return on investment and around portfolio criteria is an important way that we find for corporations to put a bowl of milk out there, so that the ideas come to the company and rise up through the company, as opposed to going out from the company because there's no resources available to fund them and make them happen.
You know, to that point, there's another model, which talks the bowl of cream model, that can be used in a different way. A lot of this discussion is how did we drive the innovation from within, in essence, right? And create that environment, which is a good thing. At Rockwell, one of the things that was done there that was kind of interesting is doing the same thing, but doing it to everybody who is within the extended ecosystem that fed off of the existence of Rockwell. So in this case, we're talking about the industrial controls business. They send out all these controllers that go to all these factories that connect all these sensors and actuators, and they have a 60,000 SKU catalog. But it turns out even in those 60,000 units, there were hundreds and hundreds of things people needed to do that were specialized product concepts that customers needed that weren't on the market. But it was really hard to pass muster internally to do those things. They'd never be a big enough volume product to even put in production. And what they did is the bowl of cream they put out was they said, come one all out there who wants to actually fill niche little product markets, and we'll give you the keys to the city to make it work. And what they found is that they were able to outsource, in other words, use other people's money to small companies, and one accounting for 1 year was $450 million worth of R&D was invested by people who made a market for themselves, which of course pulled through the base platforms and the networks and all the base products. So it works both ways.